You know the old adage about having only one mouth but two ears because you're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk? Well, trying to increase your sheer amount of listening is a good start. But at least to me, the really critical thing is to increase your quality of listening. So today, I want to talk about how to become a better listener. Now, I've seen a lot of videos and read a lot of articles about honing your listening skills, and the advice has largely been the same across the board. Make eye contact, nod when you understand or to show that you're following along, and ask a lot of questions. These are all definitely things I try to do as a listener, but if we stop here and follow only these guidelines, I think we limit ourselves to a sort of superficial listening. So I'd like to add a few tips of my own. First, when it comes to listening, and I've said this in other videos, your goal should be to understand, not to reply. So don't just ask questions for the sake of asking questions. Ask questions to clarify. For example, say someone is talking to you about a spring break trip to Florida. Since your goal is to understand, some worthwhile questions might be things like, who'd you go with, or where'd you stay, or how'd you get there? There's a point, though, where you can start asking too many questions, and that's annoying. A good rule of thumb when it comes to questions is to only ask questions for which you actually care about the answers. And if you don't really care about the answers, don't ask the questions. Second, going along once again with the idea of listening to understand and not to reply, give yourself some time to reply. People nowadays have this tremendous aversion to silence when they're around other people. It makes us deeply uncomfortable to be with someone and not be speaking. I mean, just think about it. Everywhere you go, save the library, it's almost impossible to find silence. And since we have almost no exposure to and practice with silence, when we're around other people at least, we feel really out of sorts when nobody's talking. Heck, that's the reason we put all these dang jump cuts in our videos. Silence is weird, but it doesn't have to be, especially when it's necessary and also when it's genuine. Being okay with silence to the extent that you can take the appropriate amount of time to form a genuine reply is hard to do. Believe me, my profession involves me listening to 13-year-olds all day and ergo giving a lot of advice. But more often than not, I don't actually have the answers right away. But because I want my responses to be good and useful and complete, I sometimes have to sit in silence for a little while to think about what the best response would be. And that's okay. I've become okay with that. And I think my students have too, because they can tell that I'm really trying to process what's being said and to try and think of what the best response would be. And while this seems to apply exclusively to advice, it doesn't have to. It can actually apply to every type of listening. Now, you don't want to be the person who hears one sentence and takes 2 minutes to reply, but you also don't want to be constantly firing follow-up questions or responses left and right just because you feel like you have to. Listening is all about being genuine. People know when you're interested or when you're not interested in what they're saying. It's really not that hard to tell. So is eye contact important? Yeah. Is nodding and following along physically or verbally also important? Yes. And so is asking questions, and so is taking your time to reply when you have to. But ultimately, it's about being genuine. And if you can do that, you're probably going to be just fine. Have a day.